A widowed father on the verge of collapse tries to hide his daughter's hunger while counting the coins in his pocket. It is at that moment that a millionaire woman approaches him and says the words that change everything. "Marry me, and I'll adopt your daughters." What seemed like an absurd agreement becomes the chance for a new life, full of unexpected affection, delicate boundaries, and open wounds. But when the past resurfaces, both will need to face the truth. Can love be born from a promise of rescue? If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Jack Mitchell couldn't remember the last time he had felt anything other than exhaustion. The San Diego sun beat down mercilessly as he sat on the weathered bench outside Oceanside Cafe, watching his daughters press their noses against the display glass, their eyes wide with childish wonder at the colorful array of pastries they couldn't afford. "Daddy, can we please get the strawberry one, please?" 6-year-old Lily tugged at his sleeve, her eyes pleading. 8-year-old Emma, already developing the solemn maturity that comes from growing up too fast, gave her sister a gentle nudge. "It's okay, Lily. We have crackers at home." Jack's throat tightened. The crackers at home were the last package in their nearly empty cupboard. The disability checks barely covered rent for their shabby one-bedroom apartment, much less food for 3. Since the construction accident that had shattered his leg and ended his career as a foreman 11 months ago, their life had spiraled downward. And after Sarah's sudden passing 6 months back, it was as if the universe had decided Jack Mitchell hadn't suffered enough. "Maybe next time, sweethearts," he managed, the empty promise bitter on his tongue. "Let's head home before it gets too hot." The disappointment in their eyes was almost unbearable. Jack looked away, catching his reflection in the cafe window, unshaven, hollow-eyed, the lines of his face deepened by stress. At 37, he looked a decade older. The medical bills, the funeral costs, the mounting debt, it was all becoming too much. His sister Kate had offered help, but pride kept him from accepting. He'd already sold his truck, Sarah's jewelry, everything of value except her engagement ring, which he couldn't bring himself to part with. The eviction notice waiting at home gave them 3 more days. 3 days before they'd be homeless. The thought made his damaged leg throb with phantom pain. "Actually," Jack forced a smile, scraping together his last few dollars, "why don't you girls share a cookie? The chocolate chip one." The girls' faces lit up, but before they could rush inside, a sleek black Bentley pulled up to the curb. Jack barely noticed it. Luxury cars weren't uncommon in this part of San Diego until a woman emerged who seemed so out of place that she commanded attention without trying. She was tall and striking, perhaps in her early 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in an elegant knot. Her cream linen suit probably cost more than Jack's monthly rent, but it wasn't her obvious wealth that caught his attention. It was the way she walked directly toward them with unmistakable purpose. "Jack Mitchell?" Her voice was cultured, confident. Jack instinctively pulled his daughters closer. "Do I know you?" The woman's eyes, a penetrating gray, softened as they fell on the girls. "No, but I know you. Former Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. Deployed to Syria in 2005. Construction foreman until the accident last August that left you with a titanium rod in your right femur." Jack stiffened, positioning himself between the woman and his daughters. "I don't know what you want, but I'm Victoria Blackwood." She extended a manicured hand. When Jack didn't take it, she let it fall gracefully to her side. "I realize this is unusual, but I'd like to speak with you, privately. It's regarding something that happened 20 years ago." "Daddy?" Emma tugged at his hand, her eyes wary. "It's okay, Em." Jack turned to the woman. "I don't have any privacy to offer. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here." Victoria glanced at the cafe. "Perhaps we could all sit down. The girls look hungry." Before Jack could protest, she had ushered them inside to a corner booth. Within minutes, the girls had hot chocolate and a plate of assorted pastries before them. Jack sat rigid, untouching the black coffee she'd ordered him. "How do you know so much about me?" he demanded quietly, once the girls were distracted by their unexpected feast. Victoria's composure wavered slightly. I've been looking for you for some time. It wasn't easy. Military records, then civilian life. The accident complicated things. Why? The word came out sharper than he intended. Victoria opened her designer handbag and removed a photograph, sliding it across the table. It showed a young woman with laughing green eyes and a cascade of red hair. Something about her seemed familiar, but Jack couldn't place her. This is Samantha Reynolds, my stepdaughter. Victoria's voice remained steady, but Jack detected a tremor in her hands. 20 years ago, during your deployment, you pulled her from a collapsed building during an evacuation operation. The memory clicked into place. A humanitarian mission gone wrong, a structural collapse, the terrified young aid worker trapped in the rubble. Jack had disregarded orders to wait for backup and gone in after her. He'd never learned her name. Sam lived a wonderful life after that day, Victoria continued. She became a humanitarian lawyer, married, traveled extensively. But 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. Jack's eyes dropped to the photograph. I'm sorry for your loss. Victoria nodded, her composure momentarily slipping. Before she passed, Sam made me promise something. She said, find the Marine who saved me. Look after him like he looked after me. It took time, but I finally found you. Jack shifted uncomfortably. Look, I appreciate the sentiment, but you're on the verge of eviction, Victoria stated flatly. You have $43.27 in your checking account. Your disability benefits are inadequate. Your daughters haven't had new clothes in months. You've been skipping meals to feed them. Jack's face burned with shame and anger. You've been investigating me? What gives you the right? I have a proposition for you, Mr. Mitchell. Victoria's gaze was direct, unflinching. One that would solve your financial problems and give your daughters the life they deserve. I don't want charity. It's not charity I'm offering. Victoria glanced at the girls who were happily devouring pastries, then back to Jack. It's a partnership, a marriage. Jack nearly choked on his coffee. Excuse me. A marriage of convenience, she clarified. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. What I don't have is family. Sam was everything to me, and now she's gone. Her father, my husband, passed years before her. Jack stared at her, speechless. In exchange, for my name and financial support, you and your daughters would want for nothing. The best schools, healthcare opportunities, a real home. Victoria's voice softened. I'm not looking for romance, Mr. Mitchell. I'm 53 years old and have no illusions. I'm looking for purpose. Jack found his voice. You can't be serious. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you risked your life for a stranger. I know you're a devoted father. I know you're drowning. Victoria's gaze drifted to the girls. And I know those children deserve better than what's coming. The bell above the cafe door chimed as new customers entered, breaking the moment. Victoria straightened, businesslike once more. My card, she said, sliding it across the table. My home address is on the back. Come tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Bring the girls. See what I'm offering before you decide. She rose gracefully, dropping several large bills on the table. Enough for lunch too, she added, and a cab home. Before Jack could respond, Victoria was gone, leaving him stunned. The elegant business card between his fingers bearing the name Blackwood Industries and an address in La Jolla, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Southern California. Emma slid back into the booth, chocolate smeared on her chin. Who was that lady, Daddy? Jack stared at the card, his mind reeling. Someone who thinks she has the answer to our problems, Em. Does she? Emma asked, her young eyes suddenly old. Jack tucked the card into his pocket. I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't know. The apartment had never felt smaller than it did that night. After tucking the girls into the pull-out sofa bed they shared, Jack sat at the rickety kitchen table, Victoria Blackwood's business card illuminated by the single overhead bulb with its flickering light. Marriage. The word itself felt foreign on his tongue now. His marriage to Sarah had been the foundation of his world. High school sweethearts who'd weathered his military service, built a home, created 2 perfect daughters. The thought of entering into marriage as a business arrangement felt like a betrayal to her memory. Yet the eviction notice on the counter offered no solutions. The unpaid medical bills stacked beside it provided no comfort. The nearly empty refrigerator promised no miracles. Jack rubbed his aching leg, remembering the look in Emma's eyes when she'd stopped asking for new colored pencils for school. The resignation in her voice when she'd told Lily they had crackers at home. His children were learning to expect disappointment, to shrink their dreams to fit their circumstances. It was breaking him more thoroughly than the accident ever could. His phone buzzed, his sister Kate calling for the third time that week. Jack silenced it. Kate had her own family, her own struggles. He couldn't burden her further, couldn't face the gentle suggestion that maybe the girls would be better off staying with her just until you get back on your feet. Jack feared he might never get back on his feet. He limped to the window, staring out at the flickering neon sign of the liquor store across the street. In his pocket, he fingered Sarah's engagement ring, the last thing of value he owned, the one thing he couldn't bear to sell. What would she want him to do? Sarah had always been practical, putting the girls' needs above everything. "You take care of our babies," she'd whispered in the hospital, days before the infection took her. "Promise me, Jack." A promise he was failing to keep. At 6:30 the next evening, Jack found himself herding his daughters into a taxi he couldn't afford, the address in La Jolla memorized. He'd spent the day in a fog of indecision, weighing impossibilities against indignities. He still wasn't sure what he would say to Victoria Blackwood, but he owed it to his girls to at least hear her out. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Lily asked, bouncing on the taxi's worn back seat. "To visit a friend," Jack replied, smoothing her rumpled dress, the only one she owned that wasn't too small. "The fancy lady from yesterday?" Emma asked, her perceptiveness sometimes startling. "Him?" Jack nodded. "Yes, her name is Ms. Blackwood." "Is she rich?" Lily asked with a child's bluntness. Jack winced. "Gert's not polite to talk about money, Lily Bear." "But she is," Emma stated confidently. "I could tell by her shoes. Madison from school has shoes like that. Her dad owns 3 restaurants." Jack had no response. His daughters were already learning. The markers of class division, who had and who hadn't, in the cruel social hierarchy of elementary school. The taxi wound through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until they turned onto a private drive sheltered by towering palm trees. The house, more accurately the estate that came into view, made Jack's stomach tighten. Set on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, the sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion with its terracotta roof and manicured grounds looked like something from a magazine. "Is this where she lives?" Emma whispered, suddenly subdued. Jack nodded, swallowing hard. The magnitude of the gap between their worlds struck him forcefully. What was he doing here? This had been a mistake. "I like it," declared Lily. "It's like a princess castle." Before Jack could retreat into his doubts, the taxi stopped at a circular driveway centered around an elegant fountain. The front door opened and Victoria emerged, transformed from yesterday's businesswoman into a more casual version of elegance in flowing linen pants and a simple blouse. The difference made her seem more approachable, though no less regal. "Yukare." "Came," she said, relief evident in her voice. "I'm glad." A slender woman appeared beside her, early 30s, with a kind face and practical clothes. "This is Diane," Victoria introduced, "my personal assistant and friend." Diane smiled warmly. "I've heard so much about you all, especially you two," she added to the girls, who shyly half hid behind Jack's legs. "Girls, say hello," Jack prompted, his voice rougher than intended. "Hello," they murmured in unison. Victoria knelt, bringing herself to their level despite her expensive clothes. "I've been so excited for your visit. Would you like to see something special I've prepared?" The girls looked to Jack, who nodded hesitantly. Victoria extended her hands to them, and after a moment's hesitation, they took them. Jack watched, heart in his throat, as Victoria led his daughters into the mansion. Her steps slowed to match their tentative pace. "She's been working on this all day," Diane said beside him. "I've never seen her so nervous." Jack glanced at the assistant, surprised. "Nervous, her?" Diane's smile was knowing. Victoria Blackwood built a tech empire from scratch and negotiates billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. But the thought of two little girls not liking what she prepared, absolute terror. There was genuine affection in Diane's voice, which somehow made Jack feel marginally better as he followed them inside. The interior of the home was surprisingly warm, not the cold showcase of wealth he'd expected, but a thoughtfully designed space with comfortable furniture and tasteful art. Victoria led them through a sunlit great room to a hallway, stopping before two closed doors. "These," she said to the girls, "are for you. If you want them, of course." She opened the first door, and Lily gasped. The bedroom was a child's dream, a canopy bed with twinkling lights, bookshelves filled with colorful titles, a window seat overlooking the ocean, and a playhouse in the corner complete with miniature furniture. But what caught Jack's attention were the details. The stuffed bunny on the bed that looked remarkably like the one Lily had loved until it fell apart. The ballet slippers hanging on a hook, similar to the ones Sarah had promised to buy her someday. The framed butterflies on the wall that Lily always pointed out in nature books. "How did you—" Jack began. Victoria's eyes met his, briefly. "I pay attention." The second room, Emma's, was equally thoughtful. An art station with supplies Jack could never afford, a telescope pointed toward the ocean, shelves with science kits and books about space and the natural world. Emma's specific interests captured perfectly. "Do you like them?" Victoria asked, uncharacteristic uncertainty in her voice. Lily was already twirling in the center of her room. "Is this really for me? Really, really?" "Really, really," Victoria confirmed. "But only if you want it." Emma remained cautious, looking to her father. "Daddy?" Before Jack could respond, a joyful bark echoed down the hallway, and two golden retrievers bounded toward them, tails wagging frantically. The girls shrieked with delight. "This is Sunny and Luna," Victoria explained as the dogs gently greeted the children. "They've been hoping for children to play with." "You have dogs?" Jack couldn't keep the surprise from his voice. "I do now," Victoria replied quietly. "Since yesterday afternoon." The implication wasn't lost on Jack. She'd acquired two perfectly trained dogs overnight, created two personalized bedrooms in less than 24 hours. The extent of her preparation and the resources at her disposal was staggering. Diane appeared in the doorway. "Dinner's ready whenever you are." Over a meal that was deliberately child-friendly, gourmet versions of macaroni and cheese, chicken tenders and fresh vegetables arranged in the shape of flowers, Jack watched in amazement as Victoria Blackwood, tech mogul and billionaire, listened with genuine interest to Lily's rambling story about a classroom turtle named Mr. Slowpoke. The girls were charmed. Even cautious Emma was opening up, describing her science project to Victoria, who asked intelligent questions and offered thoughtful suggestions. There was nothing condescending in her manner, nothing that suggested this was an act of charity or obligation. She seemed genuinely delighted by their company. After dinner, Diane offered to show the girls the backyard garden and the koi pond, giving Jack and Victoria a moment alone. "Why are you really doing this?" Jack asked once the girls were out of earshot. "The truth. All of it." Victoria's perfectly composed exterior faltered slightly. "I told you the truth. Sam made me promise—" "That's not enough," Jack interrupted. "People don't propose marriage to strangers because of a deathbed promise." Victoria was silent for a long moment, tracing the rim of her wineglass. "When Sam was diagnosed," she finally said, "I was traveling in Singapore. Another acquisition, another billion added to accounts I rarely use. I missed her first 3 chemotherapy sessions because I couldn't bring myself to face it." Her voice grew softer. "By the time I came home, she'd already made peace with it. She told me, 'The problem with your life, Vicky, is that you've created an empire but forgotten to build a home.'" She was right. Victoria looked up, meeting Jack's gaze directly. "I've been alone for a very long time, Mr. Mitchell. I have houses on 3 continents, a company valued at $38 billion, and not a single person who would notice if I disappeared tomorrow, except Diane, who is paid to notice." For the first time, Jack saw beyond the wealth and poise to the woman beneath, accomplished but isolated, powerful but bereft. "And you think instant family is the answer?" he asked, less harshly. "I think purpose is the answer," Victoria replied. "And yes, I think a family could give me that. Not just any family, one connected to the person who mattered most to me, one I could genuinely help." She paused. "One with a father who would do anything for his children." From the garden came the sound of Lily's delighted laughter. Jack closed his eyes briefly, the sound piercing him with both joy and pain. How long had it been since he'd heard that uninhibited happiness from his daughter? "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked, the words difficult to form. Victoria straightened, back on familiar ground. "A legal marriage, separate bedrooms, no romantic expectations. I would legally adopt the girls with your consent, giving them my name and making them my heirs. You would have access to all resources needed to provide them with the best possible life and to rebuild your own. In return, we present as a family unit. We raise the girls together. We build something that benefits everyone involved." The clinical precision of her terms somehow made it easier to consider. This wasn't about romance or attraction. It was a business proposal, an unusual one, but a proposal nonetheless. "And if it doesn't work?" Jack asked. "A generous settlement ensures you and the girls would never want for anything, regardless of outcome." Jack studied her. "Have you thought about how people would react? The society you move in, the business world. They'd assume I was after your money." "Let them," Victoria said with a dismissive wave. "I've never cared what people think. Besides," she added with unexpected humor, "if I wanted arm candy, I'd have chosen someone much less argumentative." Despite himself, Jack felt a reluctant smile tug at his lips. The sound of the girls' laughter drifted in again, accompanied by excited barking. "I need time to think," he said finally. Victoria nodded. "Of course. But not too much time," she added gently. "Your eviction notice gives you until Friday." The taxi ride back to their apartment was filled with excited chatter. Lily couldn't stop talking about the dogs and the princess room, while Emma peppered Jack with questions about Victoria. How did he know her? Why did she have rooms ready for them? Were they really going to visit again? Jack answered in vague half-truths, his mind elsewhere. The contrast between Victoria's oceanside estate and the rundown apartment building they pulled up to was jarring. As they climbed the grimy stairwell that smelled perpetually of cabbage and cigarettes, Jack watched his daughter's excitement dim with each step. "When can we go back to Miss Victoria's house?" Lily asked as they entered the cramped apartment. "I don't know, sweetheart," Jack answered truthfully. "It's complicated." "I liked her," Emma declared, surprising Jack with her directness. "She didn't talk to us like we're babies, and she knew about black holes." Jack managed a smile. "Get ready. For bed, you two, it's late." Once the girls were asleep, Jack pulled Sarah's engagement ring from his pocket. A simple solitaire diamond they'd saved for months to afford. He held it in his palm, as if waiting for it to give him an answer. "What should I do, Sarah?" he whispered. The apartment was silent except for the distant sound of a neighbor's television and the rhythmic drip of the bathroom faucet he couldn't fix. Jack thought of the home Victoria offered, not just the material comfort, but the opportunities it would provide his daughters. The chance for Emma to pursue her passion for science, for Lily to take dance lessons, for both of them to grow up without the shadow of poverty constraining their dreams. But marriage? To a virtual stranger? The idea still felt surreal, almost ludicrous. Yet when he tried to think of alternatives, there were none. His savings were gone, his leg would never fully heal, his job prospects were limited. His sister's offer to take the girls temporarily loomed as an increasingly inevitable outcome. Jack closed his fist around the ring. Sarah had always been the practical one, putting the girls first, making the hard choices. What would she want him to do? The answer came in the memory of her voice. "You take care of our babies, promise me, Jack." 3 days later, Jack stood on Victoria's doorstep, a duffel bag containing their meager possessions at his feet. The girls clutched their backpacks, their faces a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. Victoria opened the door herself, dressed casually in slacks and a silk blouse. "You came," she said, echoing her words from their previous visit, but this time with a different weight. "I did," Jack replied. "We need to talk about terms." Victoria's eyes softened as she looked at the girls. "Of course. But first, why don't you two go find Sunny and Luna? They've been asking about you. Diane is in the kitchen making cookies." The girls needed no further encouragement, rushing past with quick hugs to Jack's legs. He watched them go, struck by how easily they'd accepted this new reality, the resilience of children, both a blessing and a heartache. Victoria led him to a sun-drenched study with panoramic views of the Pacific. "Please, sit." Jack lowered himself into a leather chair, his leg aching from the tension of the day. "Before we discuss anything else, I need to be clear. If we do this, it's about the girls, their well-being, their future. Nothing comes before that." Victoria nodded. "I agree completely." "I won't be a kept man," Jack continued. "I need meaningful work, something that uses my skills, and I need to contribute to this arrangement." "Blackwood Industries has a veterans employment program," Victoria replied. "We could find a position suited to your background in construction management, working remotely until your leg improves. You'd earn your own salary, report to someone other than me. There would be no favoritism." Jack hadn't expected such a ready solution. "You've thought this through." "I've had 3 days," Victoria said with a small smile. "I used them." "The girls keep their mother's memory," Jack said firmly. "Photos, stories, traditions, that's non-negotiable." "I would never try to replace Sarah," Victoria said quietly. "I only hope to add to their lives, not subtract from what came before." Jack studied her, looking for signs of insincerity, but finding none. "Separate bedrooms," he reiterated. "Of course, this house has 7. And if either of us meets someone, develops feelings." Jack felt awkward raising this point, but it needed to be addressed. Victoria's expression remained impassive. "We discuss it maturely and determine the best path forward. This arrangement isn't a prison, Jack. It's meant to benefit everyone involved." Jack nodded slowly. "One more thing, the girls keep their last name." At this, Victoria hesitated. "I understand your concern, but legally, if I'm to make them my heirs, adoption and my surname offer the strongest protection. Perhaps a hyphenation, Blackwood Mitchell." It was a reasonable compromise. "And the marriage itself?" "Civil ceremony, small and private. My lawyers have prepared a prenuptial agreement that's extremely generous to you and the girls. You should have your own lawyer review it." She handed him a card. "This attorney handles pro bono work for veterans. She's excellent and not connected to me." Jack took the card, uncomfortable with the businesslike nature of the conversation, yet appreciating the clarity it provided. "And what do we tell people? The girls? Your colleagues?" Victoria considered this. "The truth, but edited. We met through a connection to Sam. We discovered mutual respect and common goals. We decided to build a life together that benefits everyone, especially the children." "That's not entirely untrue," Jack conceded. "The best cover stories never are." Jack looked out at the ocean, the decision before him momentous, yet somehow already made. "When?" "The house is ready for you now. The ceremony could be arranged for next weekend if you agree to the terms. My legal team can expedite everything." It was happening so fast. Too fast? Jack wasn't sure, but the eviction deadline was tomorrow, and the girls deserved stability. "All right," he said finally. "We have a deal." Victoria didn't smile exactly, but something in her posture relaxed. She extended her hand formally. "Partners, then." Jack shook it, the gesture sealing a future he could never have imagined. The next week passed in a whirlwind of activity. Jack and the girls moved into Victoria's home, the girls delighting in their new rooms, while Jack adjusted awkwardly to the luxury surrounding him. Victoria was surprisingly considerate, giving them space to settle in while remaining available when needed. The prenuptial agreement was indeed generous, reviewed and approved by the veteran's attorney, who declared it the most equitable prenup I've ever seen. Jack insisted on contributing what he could, and Victoria respected his need for independence, arranging an interview with Blackwood Industries Veterans Program that resulted in a remote position in project coordination. The ceremony itself was simple and brief, held in Victoria's garden with only Diane and the girls as witnesses. Emma served as ring-bearer, solemnly carrying a cushion with 2 plain platinum bands. Lily scattered rose petals with exuberant enthusiasm, covering the officiant's shoes in a mound of pink. Jack wore the only suit he owned, freshly cleaned. Victoria chose an elegant cream dress, understated yet undeniably expensive. They exchanged utilitarian vows focused on partnership and commitment to family, carefully avoiding any mention of love. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, there was an awkward moment where neither was sure how to proceed. Victoria solved it by offering her hand, which Jack shook, prompting giggles from Lily. "You're supposed to kiss," she exclaimed with childish certainty. Jack froze, but Victoria handled it smoothly, leaning in to place a chaste kiss on his cheek. "There," she said to Lily with a wink. "Grown-up kisses are sometimes very boring." Diane had arranged a small reception with a cake that delighted the girls and champagne for the adults. When the girls were distracted by the promise of the swimming pool with Diane's supervision, Victoria handed Jack a small box. "A wedding gift," she explained, "traditionally exchanged." Inside was a platinum watch of obvious quality but subtle design. "It's too much," Jack began. "It's appropriate for your new position," Victoria countered, "and it has a practical feature." She showed him a button on the side. "Press this in an emergency and I'll be notified immediately wherever you are." The thoughtfulness of the gift surprised him. "I didn't get you anything." "You've given me a family," Victoria replied simply, "but if you insist on reciprocity..." She handed him a document. "Sign this." It was a lease agreement for a small but reputable art gallery space in La Jolla. Jack looked at her in confusion. "Sarah was an artist," Victoria said. "Emma told me. She said you have boxes of her paintings that no one has ever seen. Perhaps it's time they were." Jack stared at the document, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "How did you—" "I pay attention," Victoria said again, the phrase becoming something of a refrain between them. "The gallery would be in your name, featuring Sarah's work primarily. A way to honor her memory and establish yourself in the community." The gesture was so unexpected, so perfectly attuned to what would mean most to him, that Jack found himself speechless. It acknowledged Sarah's importance rather than erasing her, gave her legacy a place in their new life. "Thank you," he managed finally. Victoria nodded, seeming almost embarrassed by his emotion. "It's good business. The La Jolla art scene is thriving." The practical framing of the gift allowed Jack to regain his composure. "Of course, tax benefits, I'm sure." A ghost of a smile touched Victoria's lips. "Substantial." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the girls splash in the pool under Diane's watchful eye. For the first time since Sarah's passing, Jack felt something like hope, not happiness yet, but the possibility that it might exist again someday. "So," Victoria said, raising her champagne glass slightly, "to new beginnings?" Jack clinked his glass against hers. "To practical arrangements." Victoria's laugh was unexpected and genuine, transforming her usually composed features into something warmer, more approachable. "I think we might actually make this work, Jack Mitchell." "Blackwood Mitchell," he corrected with the first real smile he'd managed in months. The adjustment to their new life came with unexpected challenges and surprising ease in equal measure. The girls adapted quickly, thriving in their new environment. Emma blossomed with access to books and educational resources, while Lily's natural exuberance found outlets in dance classes and the sprawling gardens where she and the dogs spent hours playing elaborate games of make-believe. Jack's position at Blackwood Industries provided structure and purpose, though he was acutely aware of the whispers that followed him in the rare instances he visited the main office. The trophy husband, they called him when they thought he couldn't hear. It stung his pride, but he focused on proving his worth through his work rather than confrontation. The gallery preparations gave him another focus. Sorting through Sarah's artwork was both painful and healing, each canvas a memory, each brushstroke a reminder of her vision. Victoria provided resources, but gave him complete creative control, respecting his connection to this aspect of his past. Victoria herself was a revelation, not the cold businesswoman he had expected to live with, but a woman of unexpected depth and consideration. She worked long hours but always made time for dinner with the family. She attended Lily's dance recitals and Emma's science presentations with genuine interest. She consulted Jack on decisions regarding the girls, respecting his role as their father while gradually establishing her own relationship with them. Their interactions developed an easy rhythm. Mornings featured coffee shared over discussion of schedules and plans. Evenings often found them in the study after the girls were asleep, Victoria working on her laptop while Jack sorted through gallery preparations, comfortable silence between them punctuated by occasional conversation. "The Rodriguez contract is proving problematic," Victoria might say, not really expecting input, but simply thinking aloud. "Move the Stevenson exhibit to the west wall," Jack would reply. "Better light." In the afternoon. It wasn't conventional, but it worked. They were partners in the truest sense of the word, each contributing to a shared enterprise, their unusual family. The outside world required more navigation. Jack's sister Kate was initially suspicious of the whirlwind marriage, but Victoria won her over with genuineness, and by never attempting to limit Jack and the girls' relationship with their extended family. School administrators and other parents were naturally curious about the new Mrs. Blackwood Mitchell, but Victoria handled their inquiries with practiced grace. At social functions where Victoria's presence was required, Jack accompanied her, as expected, quickly learning to navigate the complex social hierarchy of San Diego's elite. He was never entirely comfortable in that world, but he played his role adequately, and Victoria never asked for more. 3 months into their arrangement, Jack realized with some surprise that they had become friends. Not intimate confidants, but people who genuinely respected each other, who occasionally shared jokes and stories, who had each other's backs in their strange new world. It wasn't what he had expected when he'd stood on her doorstep with a duffel bag and desperate hope. It was in many ways better. "You seem happy," Diane commented one afternoon as she helped Jack hang paintings for the gallery's opening weekend. Jack considered this. Not happy exactly, but content, hopeful. The girls are thriving. Diane handed him another nail. "And Victoria, how is she doing in all this?" Jack glanced at her, surprised by the question. "She seems fine." "Why?" Diane shrugged. "I've worked with her for 8 years. I've never seen her leave the office before 7 until you 3 came along. I've never heard her laugh the way she does when Lily tells those ridiculous knock-knock jokes. Change goes both ways, you know." Jack hadn't considered that Victoria might be getting as much from their arrangement as he and the girls were. The thought lingered as he hammered the nail into the wall, adjusting one of Sarah's landscapes. A sunset over the desert, vibrant oranges and purples capturing a world in transition. That evening, as they sat in the study with their usual comfortable silence, Jack found himself studying Victoria as she worked, the slight furrow of concentration between her brows, the way she absently twisted a strand of silver-streaked hair when deep in thought. "Thank you," he said suddenly. Victoria looked up, surprised. "For what?" "For all of this. For the girls. For—" He gestured vaguely, unable to articulate the complex gratitude he felt. Victoria set aside her laptop. "It's not charity, Jack. I thought we established that. I know, it's a partnership, but still thank you." She held his gaze for a moment, then nodded slightly. "You're welcome, and thank you too." "For what?" he echoed. Victoria smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. "For taking a chance on a very unusual proposal from a virtual stranger. For bringing laughter into this house. For—" She mimicked his gesture. "All of this." It was perhaps the most personal exchange they'd had since their arrangement began, a quiet acknowledgement of the unexpected bond forming between them. Later that night, as Jack lay in his comfortable bed in his private suite, he found himself thinking not of the past, but of the future, a shift so subtle he almost missed its significance. For the first time in a very long time, Tomorrow held more promise than pain. The gallery opening was more successful than Jack could have imagined. Victoria had leveraged her connections subtly, ensuring the right people attended without overshadowing Sarah's art with her own celebrity. The space was filled with San Diego's art community, critics, collectors, and friends who remembered Sarah from her brief career before motherhood had taken precedence. Jack stood before his favorite of Sarah's paintings, a portrait of Emma as a toddler, reaching toward something unseen beyond the canvas, her expression one of wonder and determination. It captured everything he had loved about Sarah's perspective. Her ability to see possibility where others saw only the present. She was extraordinarily talented, came Victoria's voice beside him. She was elegant in a simple black dress, her only jewelry a pair of pearl earrings and her wedding band. Yes, Jack agreed, emotion making his voice rough. She always said she'd get back to it seriously once the girls were older. Victoria studied the painting. She would be proud of this of you. I hope so. Jack glanced around the gallery at the red dots indicating sales beside several pieces. I never expected this level of response. Good art speaks for itself, Victoria replied, though I admit I may have mentioned to several collectors that these prices will only increase as her work gains recognition. Jack raised an eyebrow. Manipulating the market, Mrs. Blackwood Mitchell. Creating opportunity, Mr. Blackwood Mitchell, she countered with a slight smile. Besides, I purchased 3 pieces myself for Blackwood Industries' corporate collection. Excellent investment. The business-like framing of her support was typical of Victoria, allowing Jack his pride while still providing assistance. It was a delicate balance they had perfected over the past months. Dad! Emma appeared at his elbow, excitement overriding her usual reserve. Mrs. Hernandez from school is here, and she says Mom's sunset painting reminds her of Georgia O'Keeffe. Jack smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. That's a big compliment, Em. I know, she teaches art history. Emma bounced slightly, then grew serious. Do you think Mom can see this from heaven? The question caught Jack off guard. Before he could formulate a response, Victoria knelt to Emma's level, her movement graceful despite her formal attire. I believe, she said carefully, that people we've loved never truly leave us. Their influence continues in ways we can and cannot see. Your mother's vision lives in these paintings, but also in you and Lily, in how you see the world, in what you create. Emma considered this with the seriousness she brought to all intellectual questions. Like conservation of energy, energy can't be created or destroyed, just transformed. Victoria smiled. Exactly like that. Very scientific. Emma nodded, satisfied, then darted off to find her sister. Jack watched. Her go then turned to Victoria with newfound appreciation. Thank you, that was perfect. Victoria straightened, brushing imaginary dust from her dress to hide what might have been embarrassment. Emma responds to logical frameworks. I just provided one that accommodates both scientific principle and emotional comfort. Still, thank Ios. The moment was interrupted by Diane, who approached with a distinguished older gentleman. Victoria, Jack, Commissioner Bradley would like to discuss the possibility of featuring Sarah's work in the city's public art initiative. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations, congratulations, and unexpected business opportunities. By the time the last guest departed, Sarah's work had found homes in some of San Diego's most prestigious collections, and the gallery had established itself as a serious new presence in the local art scene. Jack sat on a bench. In the empty gallery, exhaustion and elation warring within him. Victoria joined him, kicking off her heels with an uncharacteristic gesture of fatigue. Well, she said, I'd call that a successful launch. Beyond successful, Jack agreed. I still can't believe it. Believe it? Victoria handed him a folded check. Your portion of tonight's sales. The gallery takes a standard 30% commission, which covers operating expenses and then some. The rest is yours, or the girls' college fund, more accurately. Jack stared at the figure, momentarily speechless. It was more money than he'd seen since before the accident. Victoria, Don't thank me, she interrupted. You did this, Sarah did this. I merely provided the venue. He knew it was more than that, knew her influence had opened doors that might have remained closed otherwise, but he also recognized her need to frame his success as his own achievement. Partners, he said instead, echoing their original agreement. Partners, she confirmed. On the drive home, with the girls asleep in the back seat of Victoria's Range Rover, Jack found himself reflecting on how much had changed in just 4 months. From the brink of homelessness to gallery owner, from isolated single father to part of an unconventional but functional family unit. The journey seemed improbable, yet here they were. The following weeks settled into a comfortable routine. Jack divided his time between the gallery, his position at Blackwood Industries, and family responsibilities. Victoria maintained her demanding schedule, but carved out dedicated time for family dinners and weekend activities. The girls thrived in their new schools, making friends and pursuing interests with enthusiasm that warmed Jack's heart. It was almost too perfect, he sometimes thought, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for reality to intrude on this improbable arrangement. The first real test came 6 months into their marriage, over something seemingly trivial. "I'd like to hire additional household help," Victoria announced one evening as they reviewed the week's schedule in the study. "The girls' activities have increased. Your gallery is demanding more time and my travel schedule is intensifying. We could use support beyond what Diane and the weekly cleaning service provide." Jack stiffened slightly. "What kind of help?" "A housekeeper. Someone full-time who can also help with the girls after school, prepare meals when I'm traveling, that sort of thing." "The girls don't need a nanny," Jack said, more sharply than intended. Victoria looked up from her tablet, surprised by his tone. "I didn't suggest a nanny. I suggested household support that would benefit everyone, including you." "I can handle the girls in the house," Jack insisted. "That was our arrangement." "Our arrangement was a partnership that benefits everyone," Victoria countered. "You're stretching yourself thin between the gallery, your work, and full-time. Parenting, it's not sustainable. So I'm failing, is that it?" The words escaped before Jack could stop them, revealing an insecurity he hadn't fully acknowledged even to himself. Victoria set down her tablet, giving him her full attention. "That's not what I said or implied. This isn't about capability, Jack. It's about practicality. Easy for you to say. You're not the one people whisper about at corporate functions, the trophy husband who married the billionaire, living off her charity." Victoria's expression hardened. "Is that what you think this is? Charity? Isn't it?" Jack stood, pacing, the study with restless energy, his leg aching with the motion. "You swoop in with your unlimited resources, solving problems, making everything better. What exactly do I contribute to this equation that you couldn't buy? Is that really how you see yourself? As a purchase?" Victoria's voice remained controlled, but her posture had gone rigid. "Need I remind you that this arrangement was my suggestion, but your choice? That you contribute daily to this household in ways no amount of money could secure? By being your prop at corporate events? By giving you the ready-made family you wanted?" The moment the words left his mouth, Jack regretted them. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shuttered closed. "I see," she said quietly. "Is that how you view our arrangement? Me using you and the girls as props for some personal fantasy?" Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration and regret warring within him. "No, that came out wrong." "Did it?" Victoria stood, gathering her tablet and papers with efficient movements. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion when you've decided what exactly you believe our arrangement to be." She moved toward the door, her composure intact, but her body language screaming distance. Jack knew he should let her go, let them both cool off, but something drove him to push further. "Why did you really approach me that day?" "The truth, Victoria. Was it really just about Sam's promise?" Victoria paused at the door, her back to him. For a long moment she was silent, and Jack thought she might leave without answering. When she finally spoke, her voice was so quiet, he had to strain to hear it. "The investigator's report included a psychological assessment. It suggested you were at risk for self-harm, that the anniversary of Sarah's passing combined with your financial situation and physical pain, had created a dangerous convergence of factors. Jack felt as though the air had been sucked from the room. "You thought I would—" "I don't know what you would have done," Victoria said, still facing away. "But Sam made me promise to find you, to help you." "When I read that report," she trailed off. "So it was pity," Jack said, the revelation settling like lead in his stomach. Victoria turned then, and to his shock, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Do you know what it's like?" she asked, her voice tightly controlled. "To have failed someone you loved, to have been absent when they needed you most, to live with that knowledge every day." Jack had no answer. "I failed Sam when she was ill," Victoria continued. "I was too afraid, too selfish to be there when she needed me. When I found you, when I saw you and your daughters in that cafe, when I read that report, I thought perhaps the universe was giving me a second chance. Not out of pity, Jack, out of desperate hope for redemption." The raw honesty of her confession stunned him. In 6 months of living together, of building their unusual partnership, he had never seen Victoria so exposed, so vulnerable. "I'm sorry," he said inadequately. "As am I." Victoria composed herself with visible effort. "I should have been forthcoming about the full circumstances. I should have trusted you with the truth." "And I shouldn't have lashed out," Jack admitted. "It's not you I'm angry with, it's this situation, feeling dependent, wondering what I bring to this partnership that matters." Victoria studied him for a long moment. "Would you like to know what you contribute that I could never buy? Integrity, compassion, the ability to make Emma and Lily feel unconditionally loved and secure even through the worst of circumstances, the way you've honored Sarah's memory while still helping the girls move forward." She stepped closer. "Do you know what Diane told me last week? That in 8 years working with me, she's never seen me leave the office before 7 until you 3 came along. That she's never heard me laugh the way I do when Lily tells those ridiculous knock-knock jokes." Jack blinked, recognizing the echo of his own conversation with Diane months earlier. "You and the girls," Victoria continued softly, "have brought life into this house, into my life. That's not something I could purchase at any price." The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. Jack felt something shift between them, a deepening of understanding, a new layer to their complex relationship. "I still don't want a nanny," he said finally, offering an olive branch through humor. Victoria's lips quirked slightly. "Noted. Perhaps we could compromise. Part-time household help, focused on tasks rather than childcare." It was a reasonable suggestion, one that respected his role while addressing their practical needs. "I could live with that." Victoria nodded, the tension between them dissipating. "Good. And Jack, next time you're feeling this way, talk to me before it escalates. Partners communicate." "Partners communicate," he echoed, recognizing the wisdom in her words. That night, lying awake, in his room, Jack replayed their conversation. Victoria's revelation about the psychological assessment had unsettled him, forcing him to confront how close to the edge he had truly been when they met. Had she saved him, the girls, or had they saved each other? The question had no simple answer, but Jack found himself grateful for the complexity. Their arrangement wasn't perfect, wasn't conventional, but it was honest in its own way. 2 wounded people building something meaningful from their brokenness, creating a whole greater than its parts. Down the hall, he knew Victoria would also be awake, reviewing contracts or financial reports with her usual diligence. The thought no longer filled him with resentment or inadequacy, but with a curious warmth. They were different, approached life from opposite ends of experience, but perhaps that was their strength rather than their weakness. Partners, he thought, again. Not quite friends, not quite family, but something uniquely their own, something that against all odds worked. The call came at 3:17 a.m., jolting Victoria from a rare deep sleep. She fumbled for her phone, immediately alert despite the hour. Late-night calls in her position usually meant crisis. "Blackwood," she answered crisply. Jack, awakened by the ring, appeared in her doorway in t-shirt and sweatpants. Concern. etched on his face. Victoria held up a hand as she listened to the voice on the other end, her expression growing increasingly grave. "I understand. No statements until I arrive. Have Davidson meet me there in 30 minutes. She ended the call and immediately began typing on her tablet. "What's happened?" Jack asked. Victoria looked up, momentarily surprised to find him there. "Marcus Chen, my CFO has been arrested, securities fraud allegations." Her voice was controlled, but Jack had learned to read the subtle signs of her distress, the tightness around her eyes, the slight clench of her jaw. "How bad?" "Potentially catastrophic." Victoria was already moving toward her closet. "The Asian markets will open soon. Once this news breaks, our stock will plummet. The European markets will follow. By the time Wall Street opens, we could be looking at billions in lost value." Jack followed her to the closet, where she was already selecting a suit with practiced efficiency. "What can I do?" Victoria paused, clearly unused to being offered help in professional crises. "Nothing at the moment. Stay with the girls. I'll need to fly to New York immediately after the emergency board meeting. Likely be gone several days." Jack nodded. "We'll be fine here. Do you need Diane to go with you?" "No, she's more valuable coordinating things from here." Victoria disappeared into her bathroom, emerging minutes later transformed from sleepy woman to commanding CEO, not a hair out of place despite the hour. As she gathered her tablet and phone, Jack noticed the slight tremor in her hands. Another. Tell that few would recognize. "Victoria," he said softly, "breathe." She stopped her frantic preparations, meeting his gaze. For a brief moment, her carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing genuine fear beneath. 38,000. Employees depend on Blackwood Industries. If Chen has done what they're alleging, "You'll handle it," Jack said with quiet confidence. "You've built contingencies for everything. You've prepared for crises. Trust your planning." Victoria took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. "You're right. The response protocol is already activated." The momentary vulnerability vanished, replaced by the formidable businesswoman who had built an empire. "I'll call when I can." "We'll be here," Jack assured her. She hesitated at the door, then did something unprecedented. She stepped forward and briefly squeezed his hand. "Thank you." Before Jack could respond, she was gone, the sound of her heels clicking rapidly down the hallway, followed by the more distant purr of the garage door opening. Jack stood in her doorway for a long moment, surprised by the simple gesture of physical contact that had seemed to come so naturally in the moment. In 8 months of marriage, they had rarely touched beyond the occasional formal contact required at public events. The squeeze of his hand had been brief but genuine, a wordless acknowledgement of support offered and received. The next 3 days were a blur of activity, even at a distance from the crisis. Jack fielded calls from board members seeking information, from Diane coordinating Victoria's travel and meetings, from reporters hoping for insider comments. He shielded the girls from the media vans that occasionally appeared at their gates, maintained their routine, and watched the financial news with growing concern. Blackwood Industries' stock had indeed plummeted, losing nearly 30% of its value in the first day. Photos of Victoria entering the SEC offices in New York appeared on financial news sites, her expression inscrutable behind designer sunglasses. The allegations against Marcus Chen expanded to include evidence that he had been manipulating financial statements for personal gain for at least 2 years. "Is Victoria okay?" Emma asked on the 3rd evening, her perceptiveness once again catching Jack off guard. "She hasn't called at bedtime like she promised." "She's very busy right now," Jack explained, tucking Emma into a bed. "There's a problem at her company that she needs to fix." "Is it because of the bad man on the news, the one who stole money?" Jack winced, realizing the girls had absorbed more than he'd thought. "Yes, but Victoria is smart and strong. She'll make it right." Emma considered this solemnly. "When Mom got sick, you tried to hide it from us too. You thought we didn't know, but we did." The simple observation struck Jack to his core. "I'm sorry, Em. I was trying to protect you." "I know." Emma reached for his hand. But sometimes it's scarier not knowing. Victoria taught me that. She always answers my questions, even the hard ones. Jack smiled, recognizing the truth in his daughter's words. You're right. Victoria is dealing with a very difficult situation, but she's doing everything she can to protect her company and the people who work there. It might take a little time, but she'll come home to us. Emma nodded, satisfied. We should make her favorite dinner when she gets back, the lemon chicken thing. That's a great idea, Jack agreed, touched by his daughter's thoughtfulness. Now get some sleep, Professor. After checking on Lily, who was already asleep clutching the stuffed rabbit Victoria had given her, Jack made his way to the study. The house felt strangely empty without Victoria's presence. Her laptop on the desk, her reading glasses beside the favorite chair, her subtle perfume in the air. He realized with some surprise how accustomed he had become to their evening. Routine, to the comfortable silence they shared in this room after the girls were asleep. He missed her, not with the wrenching grief he had felt for Sarah, but with a quieter sense of absence, a space unfilled. It was nearly midnight when his phone rang, Victoria's name appearing on the screen. Hey, he answered, relief washing over him. How are you holding up? I've had better weeks, Victoria replied, her voice ragged with exhaustion. But we've contained the immediate damage. The preliminary investigation suggests Chen acted alone. We've brought in external auditors to verify and appointed an interim CFO the market trusts. The stock's already recovering, Jack noted, up 8% today. You've been watching? Victoria sounded surprised. Of course. Jack settled into his chair. It's your life's work. Besides, I'm a shareholder now, remember? By marriage. That earned a small laugh, though it sounded strained. How are the girls? Missing you. Emma suggested we make your favorite lemon chicken when you return. There was a pause on the line. She remembered that's my favorite? Of course she did. She notices everything. Jack hesitated, then added, We all miss you. Another pause, longer this time. I miss you too. All of you. The simple admission seemed to cost her something. The board meetings have been brutal. 7 straight hours today of recriminations and blame shifting. But they're standing with you. For now, Davidson has been particularly supportive, surprisingly. Jack heard what she wasn't saying, that her position as CEO might be in jeopardy despite her lack of involvement in Chen's actions. When will you come home? Tomorrow night, hopefully. There's one more round of meetings with the SEC, then I can leave the legal team to handle things. Victoria's voice dropped slightly. I can't wait to sleep in my own bed. We'll be here, Jack said simply. I know. The words carried a weight of certainty that warmed him. Give the girls a kiss for me. I will. Try to get some sleep, Victoria. After they hung up, Jack sat in the study for a long time, thinking about how much had changed between them, from strangers bound by an unusual agreement to something more complex, partners in the truest sense, each invested in the other's well-being, each providing strength where the other faltered. Victoria returned late the following evening, emerging from the town car looking exhausted but composed. Jack met her at the door, taking her briefcase without comment. The girls, she asked immediately. Asleep, they tried to wait up for you, but it got too late. Victoria nodded, some of the tension leaving her shoulders as she stepped into the house. Thank you for handling everything here. That was our deal, Jack reminded her gently. Partners, she offered a tired smile. Partners. Are you hungry? Emma insisted on making the lemon chicken. There's a plate for you in the oven. Something flickered across Victoria's face. Surprise, perhaps, or emotion quickly controlled. They actually made it. Emma found the recipe online. Lily helped by squeezing about 15 lemons. I supervised the knife work and oven, but they did most of it themselves. Victoria followed him to the kitchen, where he retrieved the carefully prepared meal and set it before her. She stared at the slightly misshapen chicken pieces, the unevenly cut vegetables, the handwritten card propped against the water glass that read, Welcome Home Victoria, in Emma's careful printing, decorated with Lily's enthusiastic star stickers. 2. Jack's astonishment, Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Hey," he said softly, alarmed. "What's wrong? Is it that bad? We can order something." "No," Victoria interrupted, blinking rapidly. "It's perfect. It's just, no one has ever done something like this for me before." The simple admission hung in the air between them. Jack thought of Victoria's life before them, successful beyond measure in business, but returning to an empty house, eating meals alone or in high-end restaurants with associates rather than family. "Get used to it," he said lightly, giving her space to compose herself. "Once the girls discover they can cook, there's no stopping them. Last week they attempted pancakes. The kitchen looked like a flour bomb had detonated." Victoria laughed, the sound rough with emotion but genuine. "I'm sorry I missed that. Next time," Jack promised. As Victoria ate the imperfect but lovingly prepared meal, she gradually shared details of the crisis, the betrayal by Chen, whom she had trusted implicitly, the board members who had immediately looked for ways to shift blame to her, the vulture investors already circling, hoping to capitalize on Blackwood Industries' vulnerability. The worst part, she admitted, pushing her plate away, was realizing how quickly it could all unravel, 20 years of building gone in days. "But it didn't unravel," Jack pointed out. "You held it together." This time, Victoria looked up, meeting his gaze directly. "For the first time in my career, I found myself wondering if it's worth it, if the company is worth the cost." "What do you mean?" Victoria gestured vaguely. "I've sacrificed everything for Blackwood Industries, personal relationships, the chance for a family of my own, any semblance of balance. I told myself it was necessary, that the company needed me fully committed." She traced the edge of Emma's handmade card. "But these past few days, sitting in those sterile conference rooms, facing people who would discard me in an instant despite decades of success, I kept thinking about what I was missing here, about Emma and Lily making this meal, about—" She stopped abruptly. "About?" Jack prompted gently. Victoria shook her head slightly. "It's nothing. Exhaustion talking." She stood, gathering her plate. "I should get some sleep. Tomorrow will be another long day of damage control." Jack wanted to press further, but respected her retreat. "Of course, I'm glad you're home safe." Victoria paused at the doorway. "Jack, thank you for everything." In the weeks that followed, Blackwood Industries slowly stabilized. The stock regained much of its value, though not all. Marcus Chen faced criminal charges, while Victoria faced intense scrutiny from the board and shareholders, despite being cleared of any wrongdoing or negligence. Jack watched with growing concern as Victoria pushed herself relentlessly, working longer hours than ever before, determined to personally oversee the company's recovery. The brief vulnerability she had shown upon her return disappeared behind her professional armor. The girls noticed too. "Victoria looks tired," Lily observed one morning after Victoria had left for the office before dawn. "Her eyes have dark circles like raccoon eyes." "She's working very hard right now," Jack explained. "But why?" Lily persisted. "She already worked hard before." Emma, ever practical, had her own theory. "It's because of the bad man who stole money. Now she has to fix everything herself because she doesn't know who else to trust." Out of the mouths of babes, Jack thought. Emma had articulated exactly what he suspected. Victoria was isolating herself, taking on everything personally because Chen's betrayal had shaken her faith in her team. The situation came to a head nearly a month after the crisis began. Jack woke at 2 a.m. to find Victoria still not home. Concerned, he called her cell phone, which went straight to voicemail. He tried her office with the same result. Finally, he called Diane. "She's still at the office," Diane confirmed, sounding worried despite the hour. "She's been there since 5 a.m. yesterday. I tried to get her to leave hours ago, but—" "I'm going down there," Jack decided. "Thank you," Diane said, relief evident in her voice. "She won't listen to me anymore, but she might listen to you." Jack arranged for their part-time housekeeper to stay with the sleeping girls and drove to Blackwood Industries' downtown headquarters. The security guard recognized him immediately, Mr. Blackwood Mitchell, and waved him through to the executive elevator. Victoria's office occupied the top floor of the building, with panoramic views of the San Diego skyline and harbor. Jack found her at her desk, surrounded by stacks of reports and multiple computer screens displaying financial data. She looked up as he entered, surprise momentarily replacing the exhaustion etched on her face. "Jack, what are you doing here? Is something wrong with the girls?" "The girls are fine," he assured her. "I came for you." Victoria frowned. "I'm working. These quarterly projections need to be—" "It's 2:30 in the morning, Victoria. You've been here for nearly 22 hours straight." She waved dismissively. "I've worked longer sessions before." "Not like this, not every day for a month." Jack moved closer, studying her with concern. "You're running yourself into the ground. The company needs me." "And what about what you need?" Jack challenged gently. "What about what the girls need?" Victoria's expression hardened. "Don't bring the girls into this. I'm doing this for them too, securing their future, their inheritance." "They don't need an inheritance," Jack said firmly. "They need you, present, healthy, engaged, not burned out and buried in spreadsheets at 2 a.m. "You don't understand," Victoria began, but Jack cut her off. "I understand perfectly. You're scared. Chen betrayed you, the board questioned you, and now you're trying to prove something to them, to yourself, to the world, that you're indispensable, infallible." Victoria stared at him, momentarily speechless at his directness. "But here's what I know about you, Victoria," Jack continued more gently. "You built this company from nothing. You survived the dot-com crash, the 2008 recession, and countless other challenges. You'll survive this too, but not if you destroy yourself in the process." "I can't afford to show weakness right now," Victoria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The vultures are circling." "It's not weakness to be human," Jack countered. "It's not weakness to need rest, to need support." He hesitated, then added, "to need family." Something in Victoria's carefully constructed facade cracked at the word family. She looked away, blinking rapidly. "Come home," Jack urged softly. "The reports will still be here tomorrow. The company will survive one night without you." "And if it doesn't?" Victoria asked, a rare vulnerability in her voice. "Then we'll face that together." Jack extended his hand. "Partners, remember?" Victoria stared at his outstretched hand for a long moment before finally taking it. The simple contact seemed to release something in her, and suddenly she was allowing him to help her up, to guide her away from the desk that had become both fortress and prison. In the car, Victoria leaned back against the headrest, closing her eyes. "I haven't thanked you," she said quietly, "for stepping up while I've been preoccupied, for maintaining normalcy for the girls." "That's what partners do," Jack replied simply. Victoria opened her eyes, turning to study his profile in the dim light of passing street lamps. "We've come a long way from that cafe, haven't we?" Jack smiled slightly. "A lifetime." When they arrived home, Victoria paused in the hallway outside the girls' rooms, then quietly pushed open Emma's door. Jack watched as she stood for a long moment, simply watching Emma sleep, before moving to do the same with Lily. "I've been missing too much," Victoria whispered as they stood in the darkened hallway. "They understand," Jack assured her, "but they miss you." Victoria nodded, fatigue finally overtaking her now that she'd stepped away from work. "I'll do better, starting tomorrow." Jack believed her. In the 10 months they'd shared a home, Victoria had never broken a promise once made. "Get some sleep," he said gently. "Everything looks better in the morning." Victoria hesitated, then surprised him by leaning in to place a light kiss on his cheek. "Thank you for coming to get me." Before Jack could respond, she had disappeared into her room, leaving him standing in the hallway, the ghost of her touch lingering on his skin and a strange warmth spreading through his chest that he wasn't quite ready to examine. True to her word, Victoria made changes. She restructured her executive team, promoting people she trusted implicitly to share the burden. She established firm boundaries around family time, including dinner with Jack and the girls every evening unless she was traveling. She even began taking Sundays completely off, a concept so foreign to her that the first few weekends had been almost comical, with Victoria constantly checking her phone until Jack playfully confiscated it. Autumn arrived in San Diego with subtle shifts. Slightly cooler evenings, changing light, the rhythms of a new school year for the girls. Emma had started third grade with enthusiastic focus, while Lily had entered first grade with her usual exuberance. Their home life had found a comfortable pattern, a blend of Victoria's structured efficiency and Jack's more relaxed approach. The gallery was thriving under Jack's management, expanding to showcase other local artists alongside Sarah's work. His position at Blackwood Industries had evolved into a leadership role in the Veterans Employment Initiative, allowing him to help others while maintaining his independence from Victoria's direct authority. "You've built something remarkable here," Kate observed during a Sunday visit. Jack's sister had initially been skeptical of his whirlwind marriage, but over time had developed a genuine friendship with Victoria. They sat on the terrace watching Victoria teach the girls croquet on the lawn, Lily laughing hysterically each time she missed the ball. Emma focused intently on proper technique. "It's not what I expected," Jack admitted, "but it works." Kate studied him thoughtfully. "You're happy?" It wasn't a question, but Jack considered it anyway. "I am," he realized. "Not in the way I was with Sarah. That was different, deeper in some ways. But yes, I'm happy." "And Victoria," Kate pressed, "is she happy too?" Jack watched as Victoria demonstrated the correct croquet stance for Emma, her usual corporate polish, replaced by casual grace in jeans and a light sweater. "I think so. She's different now. More balanced. She laughs more. She loves those girls," Kate noted, "and they adore her." Jack nodded, watching as Lily abandoned all pretense of playing correctly and simply chased her ball across the lawn, Victoria laughing at her antics. "She's been good for them. Patient, encouraging, but not trying to replace Sarah." Kate sipped her iced tea, then asked the question Jack had been avoiding. "And what about you two? You and Victoria?" "What about us?" Jack hedged. Kate gave him a knowing look. "Jack, I've known you your entire life. I see how you look at her when you think no one's watching." Jack felt heat rise to his face. "It's complicated. Life usually is," Kate replied, "but feelings rarely are." Before Jack could respond, Lily came racing up the terrace steps, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Daddy, Aunt Kate, I hit the ball through 2 wickets at once. Victoria says I'm a croquet prodigy." "A prodigy, huh?" Jack lifted her onto his lap. "That's pretty impressive, Lily Bear." "What's a prodigy?" Lily asked, already distracted by the cookies on the table. "Someone who's naturally talented at something," Kate explained, smiling at her niece. "Oh." Lily considered this while munching a cookie. "Then Emma's a science prodigy, and I'm a croquet prodigy, and Daddy's an art prodigy, and Victoria's a business prodigy." "That sounds about right," Jack agreed, amused by her assessment. "We're a family of prodigies," Lily declared with satisfaction before racing back to the lawn. The simple statement lingered in the air after she'd gone. A family of prodigies. Our family. The word had been used casually between them for months now, a convenient shorthand for their arrangement, but somehow hearing it from Lily gave it new weight. Kate was watching him closely. "You should talk to Victoria," she said gently. "About what?" "About whatever's happening between you two that neither of you seems ready to acknowledge." Jack shook his head. "Our arrangement works because the boundaries are clear. Complicating things would risk everything we've built." "Or enhance it," Kate suggested. "Sometimes the greatest risk is not taking one at all." The conversation stayed, with Jack long after Kate had gone home, through dinner preparations and the girls' bedtime routine. Victoria was unusually quiet that evening, seeming distracted as they went through their usual routine of reviewing the week ahead in the study. "Everything okay?" Jack finally asked. "You've been somewhere else all evening." Victoria looked up from her tablet. "Just thinking about the Davis contract. The negotiations are proving more complex than anticipated." Jack nodded, though he suspected there was more to her distraction. They had developed an almost uncanny ability to read each other's moods over the past year. "I was thinking about taking the girls to the mountains next weekend," he said, changing the subject. The fall colors should be starting, and Emma's been wanting to try landscape photography. That sounds lovely, Victoria replied. You three will enjoy that. Actually, I was hoping you'd come with us, Jack said. You've been working weekends too often lately, despite your new boundaries. A change of scenery would do you good. Victoria hesitated. I don't want to intrude on your time with the girls. You wouldn't be intruding, Jack assured her. They'd love having you there, so would I, he added more quietly. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a softening, a moment of vulnerability quickly contained. Then yes, I'd like that. Thank you. The simple exchange felt significant somehow, a small step towards something neither of them had named. The mountain cabin Jack had rented was rustic but comfortable, nestled among pine trees with views of a small lake. The girls had been ecstatic during the drive, singing along to the radio and playing elaborate imagination games that had Jack and Victoria exchanging amused glances in the front seat. I've never actually been camping, Victoria admitted as they unloaded the car. Not even luxury camping. Jack laughed. This hardly counts as camping. There's indoor plumbing and electricity. Thank goodness for small mercies, Victoria replied dryly, carrying a cooler toward the cabin. The weekend unfolded with a natural ease that surprised them both. They hiked trails blazing with autumn colors, Victoria proving unexpectedly adept despite her usual urban habitat. They taught the girls to skip stones across the lake, Victoria's competitive streak emerging as she attempted to outdo Jack's technique. They roasted marshmallows over a fire pit, Victoria getting sticky marshmallow in her hair and laughing rather than fussing about it. On the second evening, with the girls asleep in the cabin's loft bedroom, Jack and Victoria sat on the porch swing, watching stars emerge in the clear mountain sky. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the gentle creak of the swing and the distant call of an owl. Thank you for inviting me, Victoria said softly. I needed this more than I realized. We all did, Jack replied. He hesitated, then added, It's good seeing you like this, relaxed, away from the corporate armor. Victoria smiled slightly. Is that how you see me? Armored? Sometimes, Jack admitted. Though less now than before. You've changed this past year. We both have, Victoria observed. This arrangement has changed us. Jack nodded, thinking of how far they'd come from their first awkward days as a practical partnership. For the better, I think. Definitely for the better. Victoria turned slightly to face him, her expression thoughtful in the dim porch light. Jack, there's something I've been wanting to discuss with you. The unusual hesitancy in her voice made him curious. What is it? Victoria seemed to search for words, uncharacteristically uncertain. Our arrangement, our marriage, it's evolved beyond what either of us anticipated, hasn't it? Jack's heart rate increased slightly. I'd say so, yes. The girls consider us a family now. Lily started referring to me as, Victoria paused, emotion briefly tightening her voice, as her mother, to her friends at school. This was news to Jack. She hasn't said anything to me about that. Emma told me, Victoria explained. She was concerned it might upset you, that Lily was somehow betraying Sarah's memory. The thought struck Jack with unexpected force. Would Sarah feel betrayed by this development? By the girls embracing Victoria as a maternal figure? By the comfortable family unit they had created together? What did you tell Emma? He asked quietly. That she and Lily can hold both of us in their hearts, Sarah as the mother who gave them life and loved them first, and me as the mother who's here now, loving them in the present. Victoria's gaze was steady. I hope that was the right thing to say. Jack felt a swell of emotion at her thoughtful response. It was perfect. Victoria nodded, relieved. I want to be clear that I have no desire to replace Sarah in their memories, but I do want to be fully present for them as a parental figure. If you're comfortable with that. I am, Jack assured her. You've been wonderful with them from the beginning. Never pushing, always respectful of Sarah's place in their lives. They're lucky to have you. Victoria's expression softened. I'm the lucky one. They've given me something I never thought I'd have. The simple sincerity of her words touched Jack deeply. This powerful, accomplished woman who could command boardrooms and manage billion-dollar negotiations considered herself lucky to be part of his daughter's lives. "We should probably formalize the adoption," he said, thinking practically. "Make it official." "Actually, that's part of what I wanted to discuss," Victoria said. "The adoption paperwork is ready whenever you are. But there's something else." She seemed uncharacteristically nervous, which intrigued Jack. Victoria Blackwood was never nervous. "Our marriage," she continued carefully, "began as a practical arrangement, a partnership with clear boundaries and expectations." "It did," Jack agreed, uncertain where she was heading. "Those boundaries have shifted over time, at least for me." Victoria met his gaze directly, vulnerability and determination mingling in her expression. "My feelings have changed, Jack, evolved into something I didn't anticipate." Jack felt his breath catch. "Victoria." "Please," she interrupted gently. "Let me finish before I lose my nerve. I've rehearsed this conversation a dozen times, and it never gets easier." Jack nodded, heart pounding. "I've developed feelings for you," Victoria said simply. "Romantic feelings. I didn't expect it, didn't plan for it, and I certainly understand if you don't reciprocate. Our arrangement can continue exactly as it is. I value what we've built too much to jeopardize it with unwelcome complications." The directness of her confession, so typical of Victoria's approach to life, left Jack momentarily speechless. He had been aware of his own shifting feelings for months now, but had firmly contained them, convinced that Victoria viewed their relationship as purely practical. "Say something," Victoria prompted, the slightest tremor in her voice betraying her vulnerability. "Even if it's to tell me to forget this conversation ever happened." Jack reached for her hand, his touch gentle but deliberate. "I don't want to forget this conversation." Victoria's eyes widened slightly. "You don't?" "No." Jack searched for the right words, acutely aware of the significance of this moment. "I've been feeling things too. Things I wasn't sure I had a right to feel, given how we started. Given Sarah." Victoria's expression softened with understanding. "Sarah will always be part of who you are, Jack. Part of your heart. I would never ask or expect that to change." "I know," Jack said quietly. "That's one of the things I—" He paused, then pushed through his hesitation. "One of the things I love about you. Your respect for what came before, even as you help build something new." The word love hung in the air between them, neither acknowledging it directly, yet both aware of its significance. "So where does this leave us?" Victoria asked. "Practical even in this most emotional of conversations." Jack smiled slightly. "At a crossroads, I suppose. We could continue as we have been, ignoring these feelings in the interest of maintaining what works. Or, Victoria prompted when he trailed off. "Or we could see where they lead," Jack finished. "Carefully, mindfully, with the girl's well-being always the priority." Victoria's expression held cautious hope. "I'd like that. The second option." The simple admission from a woman who had built her life around controlled precision moved Jack deeply. He reached up to brush a strand of silver-streaked hair from her face, the gesture intimate in a way their previous interactions had never been. "I'd like that too," he said softly. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of possibility between them. Then, with the natural inevitability of something long delayed, Jack leaned forward and kissed her. Not the formal peck of their wedding ceremony, or the brief cheek kiss of gratitude, but a real kiss, gentle yet unmistakably meaningful. When they parted, Victoria's usually composed expression was transformed by a smile of genuine joy. "Well," she said, a touch breathlessly, "that was certainly worth waiting for." Jack laughed, the tension of the moment breaking into something lighter, more hopeful. "Agreed." They sat together on the porch swing a while longer, hands intertwined, discussing in practical terms what this shift might mean, how to navigate it with the girls, how to balance their evolving personal relationship with their established co-parenting dynamic, how to move forward without rushing. It was, Jack thought, the most pragmatic romantic conversation he'd ever had, and somehow that made it perfectly them. The following morning, Emma found them making breakfast together in the cabin's small kitchen, working with the easy synchronization they'd developed over months of shared domestic life. She observed them silently for a moment, her perceptive gaze noting the subtle differences. The casual way Victoria's hand brushed Jack's as she passed him the coffee, the relaxed curve of her father's smile. "Did something change?" Emma asked, directly in her characteristic way of cutting straight to the heart of matters. Jack and Victoria exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. "Yes," Jack answered honestly. "Victoria and I have realized that our feelings for each other have grown beyond our original arrangement." Emma processed this with serious consideration. "So you like her now? Not just as a partner, but as, you know." "Yes," Jack confirmed. "I do." Emma turned to Victoria. "And you like my dad too? That way?" Victoria nodded. "Very much." Emma was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she asked the question Jack had been dreading. "What about Mum? Aren't you supposed to love her forever?" Jack knelt to Emma's level, choosing his words carefully. "I will always love your mum, Em. Always. She gave me you and Lily, and she'll always have a special place in my heart that belongs only to her." "But," Emma prompted, hearing the unspoken qualification. "But love isn't a finite resource," Jack explained. "It can grow and change and make room for new people without diminishing what came before." Emma considered this complex idea, like how I still love Mr. Whiskers even after we got Sunny and Luna. Different but both real? Jack smiled at her simple yet profound comparison. "Exactly like that." "I think Mom would be okay with it," Emma decided finally. "She always said she wanted us to be happy more than anything else." The simple statement, delivered with a child's certainty, brought unexpected tears to Jack's eyes. "She did say that, didn't she?" Emma nodded solemnly. "And we are happy now, all of us." She looked between Jack and Victoria. "So it's okay." As if delivering a final verdict, Emma turned and headed for the refrigerator, the matter settled in her practical mind. Jack and Victoria exchanged glances over her head, equal parts amusement and amazement at the wisdom of children. Later that day, as they packed the car for the return journey, Victoria found Jack standing alone on the cabin porch, looking out at the mountains with a pensive expression. "Second thoughts?" she asked quietly, coming to stand beside him. Jack shook his head. "No, just remembering and looking forward, both at once." Victoria nodded, understanding. "It's allowed, you know, to hold the past and future simultaneously, to honor what was while embracing what could be." Jack turned to her, struck by the simple wisdom of her words. "When did you get so philosophical?" Victoria smiled. "I've learned a few things this past year from you, from the girls." She paused, then added softly, "From allowing myself to feel rather than just think." Jack took her hand. The gesture, now comfortable, natural. "We should head back. Reality awaits." "Yes," Victoria agreed, "but it's a reality we're building together now, by choice rather than circumstance." As they drove down the mountain toward home, the girls chattering happily in the back seat, Jack found himself filled with unexpected peace. The path forward wasn't clear or certain. Relationships never were. But for the first time since losing Sarah, he felt ready to embrace that uncertainty, to see where this evolving connection might lead. Victoria caught his eye across the front seat and smiled. Not her polished professional smile or her careful social smile, but something genuine and warm that transformed her entire face. Jack smiled back, recognizing in that simple exchange a promise neither of them had anticipated making, yet both now welcomed. A new chapter beginning. 1 year later, on a perfect San Diego afternoon, the cliffside garden of the Blackwood Mitchell home was transformed by fairy lights, flowers, and the happy chatter of guests. It wasn't a large gathering, perhaps 50 people in total, but it represented the various threads of a life carefully woven together over the past 2 years. Jack's sister, Kate and her family, Victoria's most trusted colleagues, including Diane, who had become like family, friends the girls had made at their schools, artists from the gallery, veterans from Blackwood Industries' employment program, her carefully curated collection of people who had witnessed and supported their unconventional journey. "Nervous?" Kate asked, adjusting Jack's tie as they stood in his study, waiting for the signal to join the gathering. "Strangely, no," Jack replied truthfully. "This feels right." Kate studied her brother's face, her expression softening. "You deserve this, you know, all of it. Sarah would agree." Jack nodded, the mention of Sarah no longer bringing sharp pain, but rather a gentle acknowledgement. "I know she would." In another room of the house, Victoria sat still as Emma carefully placed tiny white flowers in her hair. "Perfect," the 10-year-old declared with satisfaction. "You look beautiful, Victoria." "Thank you, sweetheart," Victoria replied, touched by the girl's earnest assistance. "That means a lot coming from such a discerning critic." Lily twirled, in her flower girl dress, a vision in pale blue. "Are you excited to marry Daddy again, for real this time?" Victoria smiled at the phrasing. "Very excited. Though our first marriage was real too, just different. This one's because of love, not arrangement," Lily stated with the certainty of an 8-year-old who had absorbed complex adult dynamics and simplified them to their essence. "Yes," Victoria agreed, "though the arrangement turned out to be a pretty good starting point, don't you think?" Emma, ever practical, was checking items off a list she had created. "Flowers in hair, check. Something blue. Your bracelet, check. Something borrowed. Aunt Kate's earrings, check. Something old. My grandmother's locket," Victoria supplied, touching the antique silver pendant resting against her collarbone. It had been a surprise when her lawyers had located it among her mother's possessions in storage, a family heirloom she had thought lost forever. "And something new?" Emma prompted. Victoria smiled. "The adoption papers, officially making me your mother, legally and in every way that matters." The adoption had been finalized the previous week, the timing deliberately chosen to coincide with their vow renewal ceremony. Not a new marriage, but a reaffirmation of the one that had evolved from practical to profound, now including the legal recognition of Victoria as the girl's mother. Emma's expression grew serious. "Can I ask you something important?" "Of course," Victoria replied, recognizing the look that meant Emma was wrestling with a significant thought. "Do you think—" Emma hesitated, then pushed forward. "Do you think it's okay that I call you Victoria?" "Still not Mom. I want to sometimes, but it feels like you're betraying your mother," Victoria suggested gently. Emma nodded, relief in her eyes at being understood. Victoria took the girl's hands in hers. "Emma, listen to me. You can call me whatever feels right to your heart. Victoria, Mom, hey you, whatever brings you. Comfort. Your mother gave you life and loved you first. Nothing will ever change that. I'm honored to be your second mother, in whatever form that takes." Emma studied Victoria's face, finding the sincerity there. "Lily calls you Mom now." "Lily processes things differently than you do," Victoria replied. "That's what makes you both so special. You're uniquely yourselves." Emma considered this, then nodded with the gravity of one who has reached an important conclusion. "I think I'll keep calling you Victoria for now, but I might change my mind sometimes." "That's perfectly fine," Victoria assured her. "Names are just labels. What matters is what we mean to each other, not what we call each other." Emma's smile broke through her serious expression. "I love you, Victoria." Victoria felt her carefully applied makeup threatened by unexpected emotion. "I love you too, Emma. So very much." A knock at the door signaled Diane's arrival. "It's time," she announced. "Everyone's seated and ready." In the garden, beneath an arbor draped with white roses and fairy lights, Jack waited with the justice of the peace. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the gathering, the Pacific Ocean providing a majestic backdrop. This ceremony was everything their first wedding had not been. Deliberate, joyful, born of love rather than necessity. Yet Jack found himself grateful for that first awkward ceremony as well. For the practical partnership that had given them Time to discover something deeper, for the careful boundaries that had allowed trust to grow organically, for the unexpected journey that had brought them here. The string quartet began playing, and Lily appeared at the garden path, scattering rose petals with characteristic enthusiasm. Emma followed, poised and solemn, carrying a small velvet box containing the rings, the same platinum bands from their first ceremony, now to be exchanged with new meaning. And then Victoria appeared, and Jack felt his breath catch. She wore, not white, but a pale silver gown that caught the golden light, her hair arranged simply with Emma's carefully placed flowers. No veil, no traditional bridal adornments, just Victoria, elegant and authentic, her eyes finding his immediately across the garden. As she walked toward him, Jack reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. From desperate father to gallery owner, from isolated billionaire to loving mother, from strangers bound by circumstance to partners joined by choice, from practical arrangement to profound connection. Victoria reached him, taking his outstretched hand with a smile that transformed her face. The justice began the ceremony, but Jack found himself focused entirely on Victoria, on the light in her eyes that had been absent when they first met, on the genuine happiness that had replaced her careful composure. 2 years ago, he said, when it came time for their vows, I stood in a garden not unlike this one and made promises based on practicality and necessity. Today, I make promises born of something I never expected, to find again, love. Victoria's eyes glistened as he continued. You came into our lives when we needed rescue, but gave us so much more than security. You gave Emma the confidence to pursue her dreams without limits. You gave Lily the unconditional acceptance that lets her spirit soar. And you gave me, Jack paused, emotion momentarily overwhelming him. You gave me a second chance at joy. He took both her hands in his. I promise to be your partner in all things, in parenting our daughters, in facing whatever challenges come our way, in celebrating every triumph, large and small. I promise to respect your independence while offering my support, to honor your strength while providing safe harbor when you need rest. I promise to love you, Victoria, fully and without reservation, for all the days we're granted together. Victoria blinked back tears, her usual composure briefly abandoned. When she spoke, her voice was steady despite the emotion in her eyes. Jack, when I approached you in that cafe, I was seeking redemption, a way to fulfill a promise and perhaps fill the emptiness in my life. What I found instead was a family, not ready-made as I'd hoped, but slowly, carefully built through trust and shared purpose. She squeezed his hands gently. You showed me that true strength isn't found in boardrooms or balance sheets, but in vulnerability, in opening yourself to love despite past pain. You and the girls taught me that family isn't defined by blood or legal documents, but by daily choices to show up, to care, to remain. Victoria glanced briefly at Emma and Lily, who watched with rapt attention before returning her gaze to Jack. I promise to continue building this family with you day by day. I promise to honor Sarah's memory and the foundation she created in these beautiful girls. I promise to be fully present, to prioritize what truly matters over what merely seems urgent. And I promise to love you, Jack, with a heart that has been transformed by your courage, your integrity, and your capacity for second chances. They exchanged their rings, the same platinum bands now engraved inside with the word partners and the date of both ceremonies. The justice pronounced them husband and wife, though in truth they had been building a marriage long before this moment of formal recognition. When Jack kissed Victoria, it held none of the awkward hesitation of their first ceremony, but rather the confident tenderness of a love that had grown naturally from respect and shared purpose. The gathered friends and family applauded, but the most important approval came from Emma and Lily, who joined them beneath the arbor for a family embrace that symbolized the true nature of their union. Not just two people coming together, but a family cementing its bonds. The celebration that followed was joyful and relaxed. Dinner was served on tables arranged across the lawn, with views of the sunset giving way to stars emerging over the Pacific. There were toasts and stories, laughter, and a few sentimental tears. Through it all, Jack and Victoria moved as a unit, their connection evident in small gestures and shared glances. "I've never seen Victoria so happy," Diane commented to Kate as they watched the couple dance beneath strings of fairy lights. "In 8 years working with her, I never once saw her truly relaxed until Jack and the girls came along." "They're good for each other," Kate agreed, each bringing something the other needed. As the evening progressed, Jack found Victoria standing, alone at the edge of the garden, looking out over the moonlit ocean. He approached quietly, sliding his arm around her waist in a gesture that had become natural over the past year. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. Victoria leaned into him, shaking her head. "Not one. You?" "Only that it took us so long to figure this out," Jack replied with a smile. Victoria turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. "I don't know. I think we needed that time. The arrangement, the boundaries, the slow discovery. It built a foundation that romance alone might not have provided." Jack considered this. "You might be right, as usual." Victoria smiled. "I have something for you. A gift." She led him to a quiet corner of the garden, where a small table held a wrapped package. Jack opened it to find a beautifully bound album. The first page contained a photograph of the cafe where they had first met, followed by images documenting their unusual journey: moving day with the girls' excited faces, the gallery opening, holidays and ordinary moments captured over 2 years of building a life together. "When did you do this?" Jack asked, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "I had help," Victoria admitted. "Emma selected most of the photos. Lily insisted on the glitter on page 12. Jack turned to the final pages to find blank spaces waiting to be filled. "Room for the future," he observed. "A lot of room," Victoria confirmed. "I'm thinking long-term, Jack Blackwood Mitchell." "Good," Jack replied, drawing her close. "Because so am I." Their moment of privacy was interrupted by Lily racing toward them, face alight with excitement. "Mom, Dad, come quick! Emma's showing everyone the science experiment and it's getting all foamy." They exchanged amused glances before following their younger daughter back to the celebration. Victoria's hand found Jack's, their fingers intertwining, with the easy familiarity of a connection that had grown from practical to profound. Later that night, after guests had departed and the girls were asleep, they stood together on the terrace of what was now truly their home, not just a shared address, but the physical manifestation of the life they had built together. "Sam would be pleased," Victoria said quietly, breaking a comfortable silence, her last wish accomplished, though not in the way either of us imagined. Jack nodded, understanding her need to acknowledge the catalyst that had brought them together. Sarah would be too, knowing the girls are loved, that they have a mother who cherishes them. "And a father who would do anything for them," Victoria added, leaning her head against his shoulder. They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the absent figures who had shaped their journey even in absence, before turning toward the future that awaited them. "What now?" Jack asked, his arm around her waist. Victoria smiled up at him, the moonlight silvering her hair. "Now we keep building. Day by day, together, in the quiet house on the cliff, with daughters sleeping peacefully and the sound of waves breaking against the shore below, Jack and Victoria Blackwood Mitchell embraced their unlikely happiness, a family forged from circumstance, but sustained by choice, a love that had grown in the spaces between practical arrangement and profound connection. It wasn't the life either had envisioned. It was somehow better, richer for its unexpected nature, stronger for the challenges overcome, sweeter for having been discovered rather than sought. What had begun as a business proposition had transformed into something neither could have anticipated, a genuine partnership built on equal parts respect and affection, practical support and emotional connection. Two people who had lost everything they valued most, finding in each other not replacement for what was gone, but something new and equally precious. Two broken paths converging to create something whole. Two hearts opening to second chances, proving that love can indeed arrive in the most unexpected packaging, at the most unexpected times, offering salvation and joy to those brave enough to embrace its possibilities. "I love you," Jack said simply. The words still new enough to carry weight, while comfortable enough to come easily. "And I love you," Victoria replied, the woman who had once approached a stranger with a business proposition, now offering her heart without reservation. 2 years. Earlier, in a cafe on the edge of despair, neither could have imagined this outcome. Yet here they stood, testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the surprising ways that healing sometimes finds us. Not in grand gestures or dramatic moments, but in the quiet decision to open ourselves to possibility, to take a chance on an arrangement that might, against all odds, grow into something remarkable. And remarkable it was.